Hi, I'm Jake, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be sorting the drive shaft angles on my Datsun by raising the diff.
So, a brief bit of background about why I'm doing this job. So, this car has had a bit of a vibration issue so far this year, especially after winter when I did the rear arches. I lowered the rear of the car a little bit more. And driving down to Goodwood recently, I had the car loaded up with camping gear, and that again made the vibration even worse again. Using a vibration analysis app that was like sort of free, I put some screenshots and stuff of the app I use. I was able to determine that the frequency of the vibration was double wheel speed, so a second order wheel speed vibration, which is normally linked to something like a universal joint that's going at wheel speed. So with a UJ, you tend to get sort of a second order vibration with those. The fact that I'd lowered the rear of the car more, that was basically what it was pointing at. I've had the wheels balanced a little while back, so I was sort of fairly confident it wasn't them. Again, it wasn't the first order, which is what you would typically expect with a wheel. So yeah, started looking at the drive shaft. Got the old angle meter, inclinometer thingy and bob on it, and yeah, it's not great. So it's about 7 degrees. UJs really want to be within sort of 3 degrees or less, so I'm sort of double what the recommended angle is. So I reckon that's what's causing it. So how I'm going to address that is, rather than raise the car back up, because I don't want to do that, I'm going to raise the diff up, which should have a similar effect.
This is the mustache bar from the rear diff, and basically what I'm doing is I'm flipping it over. So you can see these two holes here are not in the center. Normally they would be offset to the lower side. And basically what you do is you take this bar off, knock these bushes out, refit them the other way around, and fit this bar upside down, which moves these mounting points to the other side. So it'll basically raise the rear of the diff. The purpose of doing this in my case is mainly to try and make the drive shaft angles a little bit better. So because I've loaded the car so much, they're currently at about 7 degrees. So I can't really show it, but that's horizontal. Drive shafts are pointing upwards to the wheels, about 7 degrees, which I think is contributing to this second order wheel speed vibration I've been having in the car. So yeah, knock these bushes out, put them back together, raise the back of the diff. It's only going to raise it 11 mil from what I've measured from here. But that should knock, I think, about 1.5 degrees. So 1.5 degrees, get me down to 5.5. It's not great. It's going to be better though.
So I refitted the mustache bar, and unfortunately it's not giving me as much as I was hoping it would. It's about 1.2, 1.3 degrees better, which means I'm still at more than 5.5 degrees on the UJ angles, the drive shaft angles, which I'm not sure is going to be good enough. And while I'm doing this, I might as well do sort of a bit of a better job. So yeah, the next step is take the whole diff out, and I'm going to cut down the mounts that we saw previously. And in order for that to not mess up the prop shaft angles, it's pretty easier with a diagram, I think.
So here we have a hastily drawn diagram of the driveline of the car, at least the prop, engine, gearbox and diff. And I'll try and explain what I'm trying to resolve by lifting the front of the diff. So basically, as you can see here, the rear of the diff has got a centre line. It currently points sort of downwards like this, and the engine and gearbox points upwards. Obviously, these angles are exaggerated somewhat, but in an ideal world, the centre line of this diff and the centre line of the engine and gearbox should be parallel. Well, angle A, which is this one between those two, should be as low as possible, as close to parallel. And then the prop shaft itself is okay to be out of line, but you sort of want to keep this less than 3 degrees, which it is at the moment. I think are currently sort of 1 or 2 degrees at both ends on these angles, B and C, and angle A was about a degree before I started this. So it was pretty good before. Obviously I've raised the diff at the rear, which is going to change the angle somewhat, and I'm going to raise it a bit more. I'm hoping to have raised the rear of this about 1 inch, which is going to introduce a moderate amount of angle difference between this one, and I don't want to be introducing any vibrations on this prop shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the front of the diff as well, which will hopefully sort of cancel out raising some of the rear. And rather than change the angle of these lines relative to each other, I'm just going to sort of move them closer to each other. I don't actually know if they're this way around in reality, but yeah, so that's the idea with raising the front of the diff. So here we have the diff out and on the floor. As you can see, it's no longer on the car, it is on the floor. And before I do anything else, I'm going to measure this distance, basically where it fits into the rear subframe. I've already measured this, so I know what the number is. But it is 76.0 millimeters using the old Verineers. And I'm going to remove a bit of material from the top. I'm not sure how far I can go before this middle section will catch on the subframe. But I'll be able to take a little bit off. And yeah, directionally correct is all we can hope for at this stage. I'll probably take a bit of a closer look at the subframe in a minute and see if there's any scope to relieve or clearance that, so I can take these down a little bit further. Let's crush all these over. So yeah, basically just take some of the top surface off, all four of those, make sure they're all level, take an equal amount off each, and then I'll just fit some larger shims underneath. I've got loads of scrap metal in stock, so I'll find something the right thickness. And yeah, that should help angle the diff a little bit better. So here we have the mustache bar out of the car. Again, you can see how offset these holes are. So this position is going to hold the diff as high as possible. This is how much of the inner sleeve sticks out. And what I'm going to do is I've printed some TPU bushes that are 8mm thick, basically a wedge between this bar and the body. I'm going to trim down this inner rod to sort of match that. Should raise it up about 12mm, half an inch, something like that. And in this game, every little helps. So yeah, I'll get these trimmed down. I did have some bushes on these previously, basically so when you jack the car up from the diff, it doesn't push this mustache bar off the bushes, which is exactly what happened to me in the past. So just printed these that get wedged between the body and the bar, just so when you do load this from below, you don't just push it off the bush. So there we go, mustache bar centre bushes chopped down. There's one with the, if it focuses, with the new bushing on top. See how that gains me about 12-13mm, something like that, which in conjunction with flipping this over gives me about 22 to 25mm. Can't remember exactly, but yeah, decent gains. Next on to modifying the diff. Not sure if I mentioned it before, but I've 3D printed a new little breather for this. So I did 3D print one ages ago, but it had warped and fallen out. It was a PTFE one, I think, PTFE. Yeah, it just fits in the top of this little hole here and stops the diff spewing oil out. When I first got this car, I had nothing there, and it used to quite regularly sort of chuck a load of oil out this little breather hole. And hopefully this will help. There's basically a hollow through the middle, and there's a little cap to stop stuff going in, but the cap does let it breathe out. Yeah, another little job ticked off. 3D printing tip while I'm at it. This disgusting looking liquid here is acetone with a tiny bit of ASA mixed in. I normally use the little purge lines like this. Just chop those up, a couple drops of acetone, smear it around, and when that stuff dries, ASA sticks so well to it, yet you can still get solid parts off the build plate. Works really well for getting ASA to stick, which is one of the issues I had with it. Other than that, it's a pretty good filament. So here's the diff before modification. I've marked a line 5mm down, which is the one I'm going to trim off for now. Just because if you sort of look across, don't have a huge amount of room, but yeah, 5mm off should be okay for now until I modify the cross member, which I'm not really looking to do at this point. Hopefully have that out over next winter. And yeah, I reckon with a bit of modification to the cross member, I could probably get another 10mm or so out of this under here, but I'll need to basically notch it to clear the body. So yeah, 5mm will do for now. It's all directionally correct. Back under the car now, and it's a bit awkward to film, but hopefully you can see that I've got this about perfect. So in the centre we've got about 1 or 2mm, hardly any clearance between the diff and the centre part of the cross member. And you can see down below I'll need a thicker shim to take up that gap. But this is about as far as I'll take it for now. I think
over winter or whenever I get this crossmember out, I'll cut the center section away. I'll see if I can draw something on the screen. But yeah, I'll try and get a lot more clearance and hopefully raise it another 10 mil or so. But for now, this will do for a fairly easy job.
Stack of shims ready to go back in. These are 2.5 mil each, so add up to 5 mil for 2. Take up the slack nicely.
Okay, so diff is mounted back to the crossmember. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap. For those of you playing along at home, I've learned something about these shims, which are the standard ones, which is basically get everything in place, get the bolts in, and these are tapered slightly on the end. And then basically once everything's in place, you just tap those in with a hammer from the outside. Like, boop, tap, tap, tap. And that makes it a lot easier, and removal is the reverse of refitting. I wish I'd taken all of these out, wherever they've gone. Wish I'd taken all of these out before, trying to wiggle the diff out before, because it ended up being very tight. I think in hindsight, prying these shims out first would have made it a bit easier. But yeah, nearly reinstalled. Not a massive job reinstalling it. Now I know sort of how to do this. So here we have the diff back in. So rear mount is all bolted up. I've retightened the crossmember mounts here, because you've got to sort of relax the crossmember to get this out. The front mounts are connected, prop shaft's connected, drive shaft's connected, and I don't know if you can see that. Currently at 4 degrees on the drive shaft angle, which is pretty good. It was about 7 degrees to start with. So not as low as I'd like to get it. I think sub 3 is the goal, but 4 is certainly a lot closer than 7 is. I've also measured the prop shaft angle, so from the centre line of this to the centre line of the prop, and as expected, that has got worse. We are now at about 3.5 degrees, which is yeah a bit over optimal, especially from the 2 that it was before. But that was sort of expected. By raising the rear of the diff, you angle it like this, which is the opposite of the the prop shaft, which basically angles up towards the front to meet the gearbox. So yeah, now the angle between those is a little bit higher, but I'll drive the car and see how it reacts. Worst case scenario, I can always swap this mustache bar back around, which will drop the rear sort of 11 or 12 mil. Which hopefully will put us back to something sensible on the prop shaft if that becomes an issue. But yeah, these drive shaft angles are still more extreme than the prop shaft, so I'm hoping this is overall going to be an improvement. So everything's back together and car is on the ground. One thing, I'm not sure if I've mentioned it so far, it's worth mentioning, is how much more ground clearance I've got now. So as you can see, the diff is, well, it's higher than the subframe. Yeah, decent amount of ground clearance all round. Another added benefit. But what I'm going to do now is take it for a drive and see if it's made an improvement. Fingers crossed it has.
So we're back from a test drive, and it's gone really, really well. Raising the diff has removed 99% of my vibration. The car is so much nicer to drive now. I'm really glad I've done this job. And it's cost me nothing other than a little bit of time, which is always a bonus. So yeah, leaving this video here. If you want to know more about what I've done today or in any of the other videos, just let me know down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.